order. First item on the agenda, or do we have a motion to approve the agenda? Move, we got a second? Yeah, move and second to approve the agenda. First item is glass crushing system discussion. I'll turn it over to Esther Murphy.
Thank you. The first item we'll be discussing is basically an update on some potential equipment upgrades for the glass crushing system that we have at the MRF. This system was installed 4 years ago, and it currently is producing two size material. One's a 3/8 inch aggregate, the other is a 1/8 inch minus sand. There's a chart included in your packet that shows our tonnage, what's being processed, what's being sold with those two particular sizes. The aggregate is pretty much, we're on target for selling what we're producing for the most part. The sand, not so much. We don't have very many buyers of the sand. That's why you'll see in fiscal year 2014, no tonnage was sold that particular year of the sand. However, our fiscal year 2015 numbers looking better. Our primary buyer of that material is the landfill, and Mr. Hillen uses it on the landfill roads to, as opposed to using or buying, using coquina or crushed concrete.
He buys that from himself?
No, he buys it from the MRF. We are really good with our accounting here. When I bring rejects to the landfill, the MRF pays for the rejects that come to the landfill. Okay. When the MRF buys crushed glass, the MRF pays for its crushed glass. So, yeah, we don't. But we did give the landfill a pretty good deal on the rate since he bought in bulk. So, we did do that.
I'm glad she gave you a good rate. What is it exactly that you do with it?
We put it on our roads out there. Actually, it holds up really, really good. When we have a lot of rain, it doesn't widen out the holes as much when you put just crushed glass sand in there as it might be if you just put regular soil or any other kind of dirt in there.
Okay.
Holds up good.
You don't sell any to the county for those things?
We've offered it to the county to use in their applications. They've used some of the aggregate and some of their rain gardens and things of that nature, but they have not used very much of the sand at all.
Has Coastal Carolina ever expressed, I know they have an environmental division and they do a lot of rain gardens and teaching in their students. Do they know we have this?
Yes, ma'am, they're aware that we have it.
We are pushing these products. We've actually gone to North Myrtle Beach and asked them what we need to do to our mulch to get them to where they can use it, and they are now satisfied with the way we're processing it. And what they do is bring a load of C&D and a roll-off, and when they go back to North Myrtle Beach, instead of deadheading, they take a load of mulch with them. So we're trying to, and Esther will get into, we'll try to clean the glass up a little bit more, and we'll keep pushing it.
Since you brought that up, and I don't know if this is the right time to bring this up, two things. I think a year or so ago I asked you, and I know another board member had mentioned it, about crushing the glass finer to be able to sell it to sandblast.
We're going to talk
Yes,
about
and
that.
yes, ma'am, that's what we're going to talk about today.
Okay, the other thing then, before I forget it, I also heard that you had found needles in this glass.
When the glass is crushed, let's back up. When we receive the glass in, it's received in a single stream form. If there's anything in the glass bottles when they get here, if there's anything in the single stream load itself that can fall through that screen, the glass breaker, and into the screen, then it will come out on the other end. We do have the cleanup system, which was installed in 2012, that helps pull the small things out, but it won't pick up everything. It's not designed to pick up 100%. It will pick up most of what's there. So when we sell this glass, we have a a flyer that goes out with the product that says there can be some contaminants in the glass. There could be needles, there could be little springs that might be on the inside of a ballpoint pen, just little things that can fall through that screen and be missed by the magnet.
Okay, so you do have magnets? but
Yes,
that-
yes.
Okay,
Yes,
can
ma'am.
always
Mhm.
miss that, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
When we purchased the original crusher, we did, at that point in time, visit several facilities, one located in Charleston. They had several different sides of the product that they were producing. One was the powder, which is called a blasting media. It's a blasting powder that can be used for sandblasting. And that was something we looked at. We didn't know that we had a audience that would be interested in it at that point in time. In addition, we did have a set budget for what we were purchasing. But we did put it in the budget for something to look at as an addition later on. So contained in the 2017 capital budget is a gyratory screen and conveyor. And what that is basically a shaker. And it basically shakes this powder substance out of the crushed glass. I did give you a breakdown of some estimated cost for the installation of gyratory screen. One thing about the powder is it's a very fine powder. It's almost baby powder or the consistency of a flour or a cornstarch. It's that fine. It has to stay dry, though, once it's produced. Otherwise, you'll just have mud. So in our cost, you'll see there the purchase of the screen, a storage facility, Gaylord boxes, which would be plastic lined. What we envision is the material going from the shaker into the Gaylord box. We then will seal up the box and store it until such time as it's shipped to a user, a potential user. And our estimated startup cost, and then some advertising just to make sure people know that we have it, very small amount of advertising. Our startup costs are estimated to be about $175,000. I indicated that it was included in the fiscal year 2017 capital budget, the screen as well as the storage facility. However, I just need to make sure we all realize that this is a new piece of equipment and a new storage facility, so this would have to come out of unrestricted cash funds. So if there's money available to purchase it, then it would be something that we would request to buy at that point in time.
We don't already have enough storage facilities somewhere to be able to work that in with that?
Not to hold,
Is it the size of the product, or is it just it's such a different commodity that we need a separate storage?
well, it's, because we have to keep this stored in a facility that will be basically weatherproof.
Mm-hmm.
We have where we do electronics now, which is a shelter. We can't put it there because it won't be protected from the weather. We don't have any storage capacity inside the facility at the MRF. There's no storage capacity here at the landfill, so we don't have capacity to store this in a manner that it will stay dry and usable.
Will it have to be climate?
It'll have to be, it can't have
Controlled.
any moisture in it whatsoever, or when the sandblasters go to use it, it'll just clog their machinery. The other, if in this scenario, we did talk to a couple of sandblasting companies or those who use this blasting material in their applications. And one question that we received often was, can I have a sample? If you can give me a sample, I can let you know for sure whether or not it's usable for what I'm doing. And we don't have a sample because we're not producing this right now. The company in Charleston County that was producing this a few years ago is no longer producing it. And he doesn't have any samples, because even if I can get a sample from someone else, I can at least show them what it would be like. He doesn't have a sample. We have asked the equipment vendor for those locations that might be nearby us that we can get a sample from. And the closest ones were in Kentucky, Indiana, and Oklahoma. So we've requested that they send us a sample, just so we'll have something that we can show possible end users about the quality, hopefully, before we got to the point of installing. In our research, we determined that approximately 10% of what we're making right now in the sand material could be used as blasting media. It could fall out through that shaking process. Based on that, I did, your number in your packet said 62 tons annually. That number should actually be 101 tons annually. I picked up the half-year number as opposed to the whole year number. And that's just based on the fiscal year 2014 tonnage of 1,012 tons.
What pages were the discussion about whether or not we have a suitable product?
Oh, I'm right there, sir.
Right here?
Yes, sir. As I said, we talked to those potential end users. We also received some information as to where they're getting their material from now, how much the cost is to them now. Talked to those who were producing it before to see what they were selling it at the time that they were selling it. And that's where the figures that you have there are based upon. We're estimating, approximately 101 tons annually. The cost ranging from $70 to $100 per ton if we have an end user to purchase it. That's probably the biggest if in the whole scenario.
So it would take quite a while to get our money back.
If we went high, it'd be about 20 to 25 years.
Okay.
And that's with no improvements on the current system. Now, I say that Danny mentioned that we're in the process. One thing about this system, it's a lot of hammers, it's a lot of, you're breaking glass, so it's hard on the equipment. So it's something that does have maintenance to occur. Maybe every other year we're replacing major parts. So we've just placed an order to replace some wear plates on the equipment to kind of clean up some of the contamination that's in the product right now. But that's something that's ongoing. It just things we have to kind of consider when we're determining the feasibility of this one. But that's basically just the information on where we're at right now. Again, it's in the 2017 capital budget. And 2017 gets here, we see what we're going to do.
Okay.
Well, that bottom sentence tells you how much we can make a year. And we got to start up. It's got to be shipped in specialized trucks. And if the boy in Charleston that's in the glass business got out of it in Charleston, that, I don't know how we could improve on it here, but we've got some time to think about it.
I would think we would definitely have to, in my opinion, if I was looking at that from a personal business standpoint, that we would definitely have to find some other people that would want it and have, I'd hate to invest that much money. It'd be 25 years before I get it back. Let me put that way.
Correct me if I'm wrong, our ultimate goal is just to get rid of the crushed glass.
That's our ultimate goal. And the aggregate, as I said initially, the aggregate is doing very well in selling. And most people are using it in landscaping applications. The sand, we'll continue to promote both. We promote them wherever we go. Whenever we get a call in, from whether it's Public Works or one of the other municipalities about, hey, we want to get some compost or something for a rain garden, we always promote, how about using this as opposed to the compost? So the sand is a little more challenging than the aggregate, but our ultimate goal is just not to have it here. We want to continue to move it. And right now, the biggest if, like I said, with this is if the material is usable by the end user, because you'd hate to go through this whole process and then they say, can't use it. And then you just have powder.
Do we have to make sand? If we're selling all of the other aggregate, why would we make the sand, other than what we needed?
The system that we purchased makes two products. It makes a sand and an aggregate. Because at the point in time that we purchased it, we felt those were the two products that we could readily use.
That will require some thought. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. The next item on the agenda, recycling program partnerships, current and potential. Ms. Creech has asked staff to investigate the possibility of partnering with various businesses or agencies and things of that nature. And I just want to start this one off with giving you just a summary of some of the partnerships that we are currently involved in and have been involved in for years. Most of these may not show a monetary benefit that's just there. But in the long run, it is a benefit to the Solid Waste Authority. For instance, the school recycling programs. We've been doing the school recycling programs for more than for at least 25 years. I've been here about that long. And through this program, Horry County schools benefit in that they're reducing their waste stream as to what they're disposing of here at the landfill, so they don't have that cost. On our side, we're receiving the recyclables from the school district through these programs. So that would be a benefit, a partnership that we've had for years, and one that we work hard at maintaining. Santee Cooper's Grinding of the Greens, another long-running partnership with Santee Cooper. This one in particular, the advertising costs, right down to the actual development of the ads. Anything we do with this and advertising is split 50-50 between Solid Waste Authority and Santee Cooper. Once the advertising is done, Santee Cooper covers the cost of the grinding at the remote locations. The only location that we grind trees at is here at the landfill. So when we have the ad and it shows that we have 6 locations, whether in North Myrtle Beach or in Myrtle Beach, those remote locations are being ground by a private tree service company that's solidified through Santee Cooper. So again, benefit on both ends. I won't go through all of them. Coastal Carolina University, we do standard recycling through Coastal Carolina University, but we also do a special tailgate recycling program with them during football season. And that's something, it takes work, a lot of work, more work on their part than ours. We locate containers, we offer them extra pulls on home game weekends to cover their service. But it takes a lot of work on their end. But it's something that we've worked together on to make sure it's feasible for them to do, and that the product that's coming out of there, again, is going to the MRF for processing. So those are just several of right down to individual partners such as Jim Swain or any of the vendors that donate awards or prizes made from recycled products to various programs that we're doing. After Ms. Creech mentioned some of the other companies that also offer partnerships or sponsorships or things of that nature, did some research. I don't know if you're familiar with the website fundsnet.com. They have probably the most extensive listing of environmental partners that are potential partners. So we've narrowed it down to about 10, 12 that we're either already contact or in the process of contact. I know we've contacted about 3 of them already, to ask and express an interest in partnering with them on specific projects, whether it's assisting with field trip grants for Horry County schools, whether it's sponsoring one of the contests that we do here. We initially, those started locally with our local stores here, and with our Recycling Student of the Year program, which is the next one that's coming up. And we received some mixed responses, some who indicated they don't do that, some who indicated that their budget year runs like our budget year and they're spent for this fiscal year. However, contact them in July. We did meet with a couple who have told us they will get back with us. They need to speak to a little bit higher up in their corporate office. So this is something that we will definitely continue to monitor and continue to apply and search for partners within these different programs. It's similar to some things we've done before, but at a larger scale, just kind of covering more programs than we've done in the past. So that's where we're heading in that one.
This has nothing to do necessarily with the glass.
No, sir.
It's a totally separate
Yes, sir.
subject.
Mm-hmm.
It's just finding people who, or organizations and persons who are interested in recycling or already doing recycling,
Yes, sir.
and that we hook up with them, establish connectivity.
Mm-hmm.
That has already been done in some instances. I
Yes,
believe
sir.
these instances
Mhm.
here.
Yes, sir.
Do we get money from it?
We don't per se receive a check as far as money. Now, I say that when it comes to advertising and things of that nature, if it's a 50-50 split, we usually pay for the cost of the advertising. They reimburse us for half. So in that instance, money would be received for an agreed upon advertising arrangement.
Well, I certainly applaud the effort that you and we have already made in partnering with people who are interested in recycling and a continued effort. But this is just kind of an update of where we are.
Yes,
It
sir.
doesn't have anything to do with the glass.
No, sir. No. Separate subject.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
It was a question I asked, mainly because having worked with Wildlife Action, Chick-fil-A, if we had a big dinner with the children and it had to do with either children, education, or recycling, if the dinner cost $1,500, they paid for that. Like the big dinner you have out here, I don't know how much it costs, but a lot of times companies that have money for community, for education, or for children, or for environmental purposes, with Wildlife Action, we did a lot of that. Food Line at one time, I don't know if they do now or not, but they took 1% of their profit. And if you had your Food Line card that you give them every time you buy, and you told them where you wanted that money to go to what nonprofit, and we had 30-some thousand members of Wildlife Action, and each of those people used that. That was a lot of money that went to the children or recycling or whatever. I don't know that Food Line would still do that. If they're still doing that or not, I really don't
We'll
know.
check into that one. That's not one on our
But
list.
there were numerous retail places. The only way that you could do it would be apply for it. And it had to do with children, environmental, recycling, Earth Day. Chick-fil-A sponsored an Earth Day tent for Wildlife Action. They do an awful lot, and most businesses, especially if they're chain businesses and have corporate, will do an awful lot of that for those 4 reasons, and we do all of that. So I would think at some point, if we only got 10% of the people that are in this area, that they would do that. Also, a lot of local businesses with Wildlife Action, a local hot dog place or hamburger place, it's kind of like they would give you money for children's baseball uniforms or this, that, or the other. Even just regular one-owner local businesses would pay for a dinner or for a computer or for a fishing rod or for whatever we do as giveaways from that. And Wildlife Action really utilized an awful lot of that.
Yes, ma'am. And we've, in particular with Earth Day and America Recycles Day, we've, I'd say for 10, 15 years, have always partnered with a local big box store to hold a event at their particular location. And as a part of that partnership, they would donate a gift card or two. They would go into their own stores and have their staff tag things that were made from recycled products and things, so to be labeled when people came to the store. And we'd be on the front of the store, you know, kind of promoting what we promote on a regular basis, but being able to be on property, knowing that we're going to have that exchange with people coming in and out their store. So we will definitely continue to pursue these partnerships and sponsorships. Any other questions on that one? The last item on the agenda is an article on 3 through 7 plastics and the green fence that Ms. Pam asked that it be placed on the meeting agenda. So I'm going to hand off to Ms. Pam Creech.
Thank you. Someone sent me this article, and you could spend all day, every day, looking at different articles, obviously. And I think y'all do a great job. And one of the things thank you, that I really think you did when, Esther, when you decided to put that extra person to pick off that, that was smart. Thank you.
Well, I
for
love to
doing that.
take the credit. I'll let Mr. Fairclough and the Murph staff know.
I think that was great. Each one of you have, over the last few months, Bill has done a lot of hard work over there in researching things, and I appreciate him doing that. Jan came up with some great ideas to how to work our checks and so forth. To add that extra person was really worth the effort that y'all have put into that.
Thank you.
And I appreciate it. But I read this when someone sent this to me. And so many times people do think that everything that the work that they're doing at home and everywhere else is really making a difference. And for the most part, I believe that it does. And I think we've talked about the number 3 and number 7 recyclables before, and how much of this we can recycle, and if there's any way or any equipment that we could purchase to where we could keep these recyclables out of the landfill and to work with that. And the reason I always watch, I call it the stock market channel in the morning from 7 to 12 or 1. And they're very interesting because they know what China's doing and how much they're going to take, and they compare that to investments. So I had already been hearing a lot about China getting out of certain markets and not doing certain things and not having the need for that. And this article, to me, like China's green fence policy, just might spur the U.S. government and recyclers into much needed innovation. Unfortunately, those kinds of things are what make us look at something more. Just like if all of a sudden the federal government said, okay, every county's going to handle their trash. If that happened, we'd start handling trash and how we work with it. We would be banning plastic bags and banning cardboard, and we would be doing a lot of things differently. And I think through reading this that we can see some things that I think we need to do, and I think we need to interact with our local governments and our state governments to work on some of these items. I would like to see us have a list of everything that goes in the landfill, and then a list of how it's recycled, how it is processed in other places, and what we can do and what it would cost us financially to handle these products. And then, just like the last thing you did that I asked you with the glass, it might be that that would not be feasible for us to do, or we might have to give some more thought to it. But because of looking at this, and because at the last meeting, y'all let us know that our recyclables are not making the amount of money they did, it's gone down, then before all of this does that, I would like to be proactive and look at everything we have that comes in here and find out some of the things that we could do and pick and choose what would cost us the least to do and what we could already do that would make us more efficient to handle these kinds of items, and see where we would be on that, because we already recycle an awful lot, more than most.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think that has to do with the hard work y'all have done and other boards and staff before us, that you do as much as you do. So that's a pat on your back for doing your job way before I got here. But I would like to look at all of this and kind of have a financial analysis. I know that we have some things in this landfill that are not as efficient as they could be, not because we're doing anything wrong, but we can handle a certain tonnage and we're not getting that, for whatever reason that may be or whatever area that may be in. But after reading this, I really would like to know more how to recycle some of these plastics and some of the things that you feel like. We're like Sunoco is no longer bringing this. We may have other people we do business with that are no longer going to do that. And I would like to have an idea before all of that happens what we might could do with that. And I know that we haven't done the analysis yet on what exactly we have and how much of it. But I think this speaks to the need that we need to know this. And it's kind of hard to go from here until we are aware of those things.
Yes, ma'am. I will give you just a little bit of background. Currently, Horry County recycles plastics number 1 through 7. So we're currently recycling the 3 through 7s that this article speaks of, as well as probably about half the counties in the state are recycling 3 through 7 plastics in addition to the 1s and 2s. 1s and 2s are always top commodity, always easy to find a vendor for. The 3 through 7s get a little dicey. But we've always recycled 3 through 7, or let me rephrase that. We've always collected and asked residents and businesses to recycle their 3 through 7 plastics. Initially, because we wanted to make this as easy as possible for people. We've been fortunate enough to have vendors who do purchase our 3 through 7 plastics. At one point in time, we'd give it away just so that it wasn't being landfilled. It was more about saving the landfill space more so than generating a huge revenue for this particular type plastic, because it is a mixed plastic. The green fence that they are speaking of in this article is something that that China instituted in February 2013. And it was a 10-month program with the goal of increasing the quality of material that they were getting in that was being shipped or imported into China. A lot of the material that they were getting prior to the initiation of the green fence was heavily contaminated with solid waste. Not contaminated with other recyclables, but contaminated with solid waste. And if it's more contamination than useful, then of course it's going to go to a landfill. It's the same thing that would happen here. If we got a load in at the MRF that was significantly contaminated with solid waste, we can't recycle it. So they instituted this green fence policy, and pretty much any containers they received at their port, they would initially they were checking 100% of the containers, is what they said. And if the containers for fiber, and it's covered fiber, metal, plastics, everything that they were receiving, if the container had more than 1.5% contamination when it came to fiber, they rejected at the dock and send it back. The other commodities were a little bit higher, about 2 to 5% contamination. But their ultimate goal was just to clean up what was coming into China. we've been fortunate since we've been selling the 3 through 7 plastics not to have a load rejected. And I say fortunate, it's more so that we try to ensure the least amount of contamination in anything that we ship out of the MRF. With overseas shipments and containers, there's a special process that you go through when you're shipping these things, because you don't want it to get, across on the other side of the world, and they say, oops, we don't want it, send it back. So we're required to take pictures of the load as we're loading it. So there's a quarter picture when it's quarter full, there's a half full picture, there's a completely full picture, then we seal it, we take a picture of that, and that's documentation of what's in that container. We take great efforts in ensuring the quality of anything that we're shipping, so we've been fortunate not to have loads rejected and sent back to us. The Green Fence Initiative ended in November of 2013. It was a 10-month, the end of November, very first part of December, was a 10-month program. Even though the initiative ended, the standards that they set have not. So they still maintain those quality standards to ensure what's coming to them is, for the most part, clean, usable material. A lot of the 3 through 7 plastics that we ship, our vendors do ship to China. And I was talking to Danny about it, and one vendor, he'll just, the bales that he purchases from us, he sends those bales to China. Whereas another vendor will take the bales, and I'm not sure if you haven't seen the Wellman Plastic Tour, let me know, we might set something up. But they actually take the bales, break them down, they sort it by item. They then shred it, they wash it and clean it up. Then it's an extrusion process where they melt it down and they either make it into pellets or some type, it looks almost like cotton fiber. But once they go through that process, they then too sell it to China. So it's still going to China, just in 2 different forms. But we're constantly looking at what other items there are in the waste stream that can be pulled out and recycled or reused in some shape, form, or fashion. Whenever we have a business, more so our manufacturers that might have a waste product generated through their process or through some material they might have incoming, and they'll call us and they'll say, hey, can you get rid of this particular type plastic? It has a number 6 on it. Is this something you can recycle? And then we'll get in contact with our vendors to see, is this something we can include in our scrap plastic? And if so, we'll bail up some of everything, from car bumpers to lawn furniture. If it's, a bulk supply that we can compact and bail up and ship and they'll take it, we'll do it. So we're definitely trying to be proactive when it comes to those things that are being recycled, or trying to lessen how much of it's being landfilled.
And let me say, everybody's looking at plastic. Take one of these and pass it around, and you'll see that San Francisco is now the first city to ban water bottles. But sometimes articles like this
Got 2.
upset people, and some people that read this article might very well say, there ain't no use collecting that stuff anymore. It's going in the trash bin. But we take it, and it's not high dollar sales on it, and it's a ragged looking mess in a bale. But we getting
About 2 to 3 cents a pound.
Did they ban that Pepsi bottle? Just
But
check it.
Coca-Cola spoke to it in that last paragraph. The American Beverage Association spoke to it.
Well, if you drink out of a glass bottle, we won't have that problem. won't have to do that.
We just had to grind it.
You have to grind that.
Bill can use it.
But, you know, a lot of cities, I read on the internet, there are 5 of the best states, 5 of the best cities for recycling. And one thing that all of them had in common was that there were things that they banned from their landfill, like plastic bags and plastic bottles and those kinds of things. And, you know, their citizens didn't die. They worked that out, and they did it over a period of time. They had a 4 or 3 or a 5-year period of time where they learned how to do that. And that's really something, as I've said before, that I think our lobbyists and we need to work on a lot harder here is with our politicians to get them to understand monetarily what it is costing them in funds.
And I think once we do the study, you'll have the ammunition that you can go to county council or to the state and say, if you just ban X, this is how much space that you will save. And banning something from the landfill, I think we could do it a lot better than the state did it on e-waste, because we can police it here. We have a market for it. So I think the study.
And that would be our job.
Yeah, and I think the study's gonna do a lot for it.
When is the study gonna, when are we gonna start the study?
After July, once we get the new budget.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think a lot of people on the technical committee that studied diversions and said, there's not anything here right now. That's what the technical committee said. There's nothing here now that fits us. We'll keep looking, and hopefully one day there will be. But there's some things that we can do before we get to that.
Yep.
But we do need that study first, because we don't know what we're talking about until we have that.
Yes, ma'am. That would be all that I have.
That's it. All right, well, that concludes everything on our agenda. Is there anything that we didn't discuss that y'all need to bring up?
I just wanted to ask one thing. Do you remember the lady that was in Lake City that had I gave you her name, she had the art, recycled art contest, and
Yes,
the
ma'am.
winner got $50,000? Did we ever contact this lady? Because if she has another one, we need to participate in that.
I did, but I never heard back.
Okay.
I'll have to,
You got a lot of money. Darla. I would think
I'll have to
that's
see if
her.
I can find her
And
contact info.
We'd like for her to have another one of those contests.
Maybe have
We'd like for her to be a sponsor.
That'll work.
Or an adopted parent?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, well, I'd like to thank the staff, Esther, for bringing all this information to us in such a professional manner. We have a motion to adjourn.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
So we're taking no action in terms of,
Yes, no, just
Information.
discussion. Yes, sir.
I second the motion to adjourn.
All in favor, aye? Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you,
What
thank you.
percentage of recycling are we